we just want to say hello and welcome to the Monarch Group podcast. We are so excited. We've got a very special guest on the show today, and we are going to be talking about protecting the golden years. And I tell you, if you all have kept up with us on social media, if you listen to my live radio show, we are always relating things to real estate, and our business has grown to where 28% of it is working with estates, working with living estates, and really helping people with that right sizing, because oftentimes, there is so much misinformation out there, and we are just so excited to do a deep dive today on how families can safeguard and protect their loved ones. And we have got Lindsey with Elder Advisors. They serve Kentucky and Indiana, and we have had the pleasure of working with them on a variety of unusual situations, and just excited that they are coming onto the show today to talk to us a little bit more about, what you do, how you help your clients, and, Elder Advisors helps families not just craft plans, but, you really give them that sound peace of mind, because oftentimes nobody wants to talk about nursing homes and death and all of that information. But Lindsey, we want to say welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
To the Monarch Podcast. And tell us a little bit about yourself, about the company, and what you all do.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. So I am Lindsey, and I'm the Senior Vice President at Elder Advisors, and I've been on the team since November of 21. But I really have a lifetime of experience working with seniors. So I grew up in a nursing home, kind of close to here. It was the old Good Samaritan Center in J-Town.
Yes.
Yeah, a long time ago. My mom was a social worker. So I was volunteering in the dining room and calling bingo before I even went to kindergarten. So, the seniors are a population I'm just deeply, deeply passionate about. I studied communications at the University of Louisville. So I'm, born and raised in this area. I've never left. And I graduated in a time I'm sure you're familiar with, but 2008 was when I graduated college. So it was like, I had all kinds of things that I thought I was going to do in like the marketing space and all of that communication space. And 2008 was just a really tough economy. And my mom, who was working at nursing homes at the time, said, there's this position open and you need to kind of apply for it. So I did, and I totally blew off the interview because I thought I was not qualified. But as it turns out, I was. And so it was like coming home. And I never felt like it was going to be like coming home. So I worked for many, many years in skilled nursing facilities or nursing homes on both sides of the river, and did some time in hospice care as well. And I felt a calling post-COVID to really serve the families directly. Like, I loved being in service to my families, but I always worked for somebody, right? And so it's a balance of interest, and it's just like, what would this look like if I just worked for if I just served families? So I started my own little baby business with sort of personal care coordination.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah, it was short-lived. But no, I was really helping people navigate care. So from different levels of care, which a level of care for folks who are listening who don't know is, independent at home or assisted living with a little bit of assistance or skilled nursing. So there's a bunch of different levels of care, but I was helping families navigate those levels of care. And I did that for about 6 months, and about the first 4 folks that I worked with needed Larry at Elder Advisors' expertise as it pertained to protecting their finances. And so about the 4th time I walked somebody in his office, he's like, I'm interested in learning more about this business model. So we chatted, and he kind of bought my baby business, and we went into business together. So he's been doing this for a lot longer than I have been around. Not really, but so Elder Advisors is a company which Larry started. Will celebrate 30 years next year. So he's been working hard in the community for a long time, and so I've had the pleasure of being here since 21, and now I'm a co-owner of the business, and it's just such an amazing privilege to serve families directly. So that's what we do.
Well, and I can't imagine, what this space looks like from the time that you all started in 1996. Yeah. So I love that you all have the longevity, that you all have been around. I mean, that you and Larry both have seen a variety of different situations, because in our world, auction, real estate, I mean, I remember growing up, I just used to think, everybody goes to a nursing home. And then I started realizing there's so many different options.
So many.
And
so many.
It's very overwhelming.
Yes.
It's like, where do I start? What do I do?
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about how this industry has evolved, especially since 1996.
Sure. So, we actually, when we have presentations we're giving in the community and trying to educate folks, we talk about how much things have changed. And, we have these slides and it's like, a gallon of gas in 56 was like 3 cents or what, or a stamp was 3 cents, whatever. And, nursing home costs as it pertains to a nursing home has skyrocketed. But if you think back, and this is very important, when we're aging differently, right? And so I think about my great grandparents. So my great grandparents would have been born 1900-ish era, whatever. But I was fortunate enough to know my great grandma. She never got sick. She just got old. And my grandmother and her sisters rallied and moved, and she passed away in her farm home that we had been to for family dinners. That's how my great grandma and her brothers and sisters in that generation aged. Nursing homes are not a thing of the past. They were not a thing of the past. They're relatively new because culturally we're not staying at home and taking care of our loved ones anymore. And that's not bad. That's just fact. I mean, that's just where we're at. So I think now that then to my grandparents, every one of my grandparents saw at least a little bit of a time in a nursing home care. So, it's trended up.
Right.
And you hit the nail on the head earlier when you said there's so many options. People don't want to talk about it. I think if people really knew the amazing solutions that were out there, that they would talk about it. Because I think people think nursing home and immediately they're like, sad people in a dark room.
You are right.
2 people in the room. You know what I mean? And that just is not the case. That's just not the case. I mean, I'm not saying it's universally not the case, but that's just not the case. Our clients enjoy phenomenal care in facilities, a lot of them with private rooms and their own spaces. But there's also a lot of options in the home before we need nursing home care. So elder advisors, we do a lot of things, but one of the things that we do is we actually have a master's level social worker on staff that help families stay in the level of care they're at. So again, that level of care. Sometimes assisted living is appropriate, and they've got their own little kitchenette and that level of independence. And what we have found is when families have this conversation and seek out a level of care that's appropriate when they start to feel like they need help, they age better, right? They age in place. The folks, I'm going to make a blanket statement. The folks typically that we see that are like, okay, we're in crisis, we need a nursing home right now, they've waited too long. And if they had come in and done something 3 or 4 years ago, they may be successful in the home, or we at least wouldn't be here in this adult children are crying at the table, mom doesn't want to go, this crisis situation. So earlier is better. And that's not for placement. Earlier for the conversation is better. That's all. It's just a conversation.
So what are some of the common pitfalls that you all see? Because I think you just brought up a great point and something I've learned learning about your all's business. I always tell people I know enough to be dangerous. I just know the real estate stuff, right? Because that's my bailiwick. Yeah. But I've learned that, like you mentioned, the sooner you can have those conversations, the better off it is for the family as a whole emotionally and just having it all mapped out. So what are some pitfalls that you all see in your line of business?
Sure. So people don't plan on failing. They just fail to plan. And, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time to plant the tree is today. I think so that's the pitfall, right? People wait. Well, when we're going with the kids to Florida in September, we'll get to it after that. And it's, it's fine, but then, now it's the holidays, and now, 3 years from now, nothing's in place. And when you don't have the conversations, it's just chaotic. It's chaotic. So when we talk about estate planning, right? When we talk about just kind of having the conversation, there's a couple of things everybody needs to know. One, a good estate plan does not hasten death. I mean,
Right.
really, like, talking about it and getting a plan does not actually make it come sooner. And I think that's an important thing to know. And it's empowering. It's an empowering thing. Because here's the thing, and you know this with your experience with probate and estates, you don't have to do a plan. You don't. Yeah, you don't. The court system and the attorneys will figure it out for your family. And so I think adult seniors, a pitfall is that they don't recognize this is really a gift for their children. So one of the first things I kind of ask when I'm sitting across from a new client is, do you like your kiddos? I mean, do you like, because what you're doing is paving a road
Right.
for them, and not necessarily for your stuff or for your estate, but you're just giving them the tools they need to serve you if or when you can't serve yourself anymore. And that's really important. Another pitfall is people just don't do it because they're like, I don't have an estate. They hear an estate planner and they're automatically like, well, we got to be, what is it from Annie, Daddy Warbucks or whatever?
Right.
That
Yes.
you've got to be, well,
Yes.
you know, I don't have a yacht and I don't have a cabin in the woods, so I don't have a vacation home. I don't need to do that. In the state of Kentucky, if you have over $30,000 in personal property, you're going to probate. You're going to probate. So it's not, you know, when you're talking about an estate plan, everybody needs one. Literally everybody needs one. I have an estate plan. Me and my husband have an estate plan. Everybody needs an estate plan. Yeah. And if you don't, the government's going to figure it out for you.
And you
Nobody
don't,
wants that.
No. And I
wants
tell
that.
you, you know, I remember the very first real estate auction I did. It was a referral from an attorney out of Bowling Green, and they had a home over on East Indian Trail.
Mm-hmm.
And the property was probably worth maybe about $85,000. This was years ago. It was in a floodplain. And the family literally was fighting over a picnic basket that I was selling. And I'm thinking, wow. And there was like millions of dollars that were left in stocks, and
Yeah.
they did not really have it in writing and have it planned out. And I thought, wow, I mean, families really do go, and that was, even in my early 20s, I thought, whoa, I don't have much, but guess what? I don't want people fighting over
Right.
the items and the stuff, because you want to know when that time comes that it goes to the people that you want it to go to.
Right. It's such a gift. It's such a gift. My parents are divorced. My dad and my stepmom have a good estate plan. My mom has a great estate plan. My in-laws have a good estate plan. And it's for us. I mean, it was at my urging. So
Right.
regardless of how you're hearing, are you taking this in as a senior that, hey, it's time for me to do estate planning? Are you taking this in as an adult child? Newsflash, it's time for you to do estate planning also. But leaning in on your parents and really encouraging them to do this. It's empowering. I think that's another, not a pitfall, but a myth. This is actually empowering. This is not, I think seniors especially, this is a demographic that value their privacy, and they value their control, and a good estate plan lets you keep that. It lets you keep that. And I think that's another reason why people don't call it, I'm not ready to sign anything over. Well, good. We're not signing anything over to anybody. We're just putting together a good estate plan. So I think that that's another kind of myth that's out there, but this is empowering. This is me saying I've worked my entire life and I want to make sure that I know what's happening to it and that my family knows what's happening to it.
Now, Lindsey, I know just like in your line of business, in my line of business, I hear, you know, all kinds of stuff like, what are we going to do if the property only sells for $1? And I'm like, it's not going to sell for $1. And, you know, I know you hear the old saying, I'm going to go broke if I go into a nursing home. And I know that you oftentimes, or I'm just going to give that property to my child for $1.
Yeah.
So kind of unpack that quote of don't go broke, being in a nursing home.
Sure.
And what does that mean in your world?
Yeah. Don't go broke in a nursing home. Registered trademark. Check it out. So we have the registered trademark on that. And it's just, nursing homes are costing on average $120,000 a year. So that's $10,000 a month, and that's just right in the middle. We have some communities that are closer to like the 7, 5, 8, and we have some communities that are 14. So 10 is just a real good middle of the road number. And so we find most of our folks that come in crisis, so crisis plan, they've not done anything, they've not done an estate plan of any kind, now they're in a nursing facility, they can go broke in a matter of a year or two. I mean, you think about a married couple. Let's talk about Mr. and Mrs. Jones. So Mr. Jones is in nursing home care. Mrs. Jones is at home. She has a home. And the only thing they may have is $150,000 retirement account, if that. It's gone in a year. It's gone in a year. And now Mrs. Jones, who, has to live at home for the next 5 or 10 years, what does she have? And so for a married couple who's done no estate planning, so who has just not done anything, we can protect all of the assets, meaning we can get them qualified for benefits to cover the nursing facility so they don't go broke in a nursing home. For a single person, so somebody who's widowed or single, divorced, who is needing nursing home care, we can protect about half the assets. And half of something is better than all of nothing.
Absolutely.
But I will tell you, in those, we do it all day long. I've got a team of, there's 12 of us now. I've got a team of 6, and this is all they do, is work with these families that are in crisis. It's all they do. And it's messy. It's messy, and it's invasive, and it's a lot, because we're getting them a benefit of over $100,000 a year. So we always prefer pre-planning, right? Hello, get the estate plan in place, because we can protect much, much, much more than that. So going back a little bit in the archives, Larry started the company in '96, and he was really, really focused on that estate planning. Really, we weren't dealing with anything about nursing facilities. We were just kind of helping families get their ducks in a row, have conversations with their families, building a good estate plan. And really, we didn't start with the nursing home benefits until probably about 8 or 10 years, as he tells the story after that. Because what he noticed was some of those folks with, the estate plan were now coming in and saying, okay, well, now we've had a level of care change, and, wife needs care or mom needs care. And they, we were like, well, we need to do this. So what we love is when somebody who's done the estate planning comes in, 10 years later and says, mom's in a nursing home now. And we dive into the estate plan and say, look, you're protected. Look at all of this stuff that's protected. And it's not messy, and it's not frustrating for the family, because it's all taken care of ahead of time. So we love when that happens. More often than not, it's the people that are coming in, they're like, we haven't done anything,
right,
and the house is on fire, and the facility wants, $14,000, what should we do? And it's like, okay, we can do this. Again, best time to plant a tree, 20 years ago. Second best time would be today.
Well,
today.
And I tell you, I know that, I've read so many of your all's reviews on Google, and you all are actually known, and your firm emphasizes on, that you hold that hand. Mm-hmm. And that's oftentimes what people need, because I know in the real estate side, it is there's nothing easy, right? I mean, if it was easy, everybody would be successful at it. But there is a lot of hand holding, because there is a lot of documentation. There is a lot to go through. And when I've had clients that are like, well, we've been talking to somebody here, and I'm thinking, whoa, time out. You're a veteran. There is the possibility of benefits that you are not taking advantage of. And that's where you all will be able to really come into play.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that people just don't recognize what all's out there for them. We're not tax professionals.
Right.
But nobody walks into their CPA's office and is like, hey, CPA man, I don't want you to use any of the rules. Like, I'd really like to write the biggest tax bill possible. Like, just don't use any of the rules, just charge me. Nobody says that.
No.
So what we do is, as it pertains to care and health, we know all the programs, we know everything that's out there, and then help position the client so that they get maximum help. And there is handholding. I was like grabbing my phone. I'm pretty sure it's at 2:00. I have one of my case managers that's going to the funeral home with the daughter to have a conversation about a policy that we need to get her dad on benefits. Nobody does that. They're going to meet at the funeral home today. We go to the bank with the clients. It's even more than a concierge. It is compassionate hand-holding, leading, shepherding through the process that you just don't get at some other firms. That really personal care.
And that's what the majority of the clients that I'm working with need.
Yeah.
Because they are so overwhelmed, and it's like, well, how do I do this? And they'll call, and I'm like, you need to call.
Yeah.
You need to call Lindsey.
Yeah.
You need to call Larry. That's actually out of my, because obviously I'm staying in my box because I don't want to say something that I'm not supposed to say. So talk to us a little bit about, how you just mentioned the human element, which separates you all. Because people will oftentimes say, Elizabeth, there's 5,400 realtors. What makes you different? Now, when you talk about that care coordination, go into a little bit, when somebody calls you all and they come in, that's when you all just evaluate really what all they need.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And it depends on where the person is at and what they need. I always like to ask the question when I'm with a new client, if you had a magic wand, what would you do with it? What would you do with it? And, if they say, well, I would fill the bank account up so I could pay this bill or whatever. Okay, well, I know we need to really focus on the finances because this is what's really, if it's like, well, I would just be able to quit my job and stay at home with mom. Okay, well, then I know we need to talk about care options and really making sure that we know fully what is available for mom. So I like the magic wand question because it really kind of gets people going. But we do offer several different services. All of them, the end goal is to provide peace of mind. That's super duper, provide peace of mind. And Larry says to everybody, the goal is you're going to feel better when you get up and leave the room than you do right now. So that's everything that we do, whether it's the master's level social worker. So she visits clients monthly. Some are in their home, some are in nursing facilities. She has one fellow, his family engaged us, his daughters, his wife passed away very unexpectedly. He still golfs 3 times a week. And his daughters were like, we're really just kind of worried about this next chapter. Mom, kind of abruptly passed away, and we just want to make sure we have professional support for whatever dad might need. So she's toured some like assisted living or independent living communities. He's still golfing 3 times a week, and now they just go to lunch at different places once a month. Check in, make sure everything's doing okay. And that's what that client needed. He didn't need any of the financial services. We're not trying to qualify for benefits right now. That may come, but he needed care. His children needed assurances that he was going to navigate this next level, this next, phase of life in a healthy way. And that's what our social worker did for him. So, but she has folks that she sees because the adult children are living out of town. And so she is the eyes, she is the one that's bedside. Hey, FaceTiming, I'm here with mom, want to just check in and see, making sure simple things like making sure she got her hair done. She's supposed to see the beautician on the 3rd Tuesday. Did she see the beautician? So these are all things that Mary and our social worker is doing from the care perspective, and much less, butterfly, much less kind of emotional. You've got Larry at the table navigating the numbers, making sure that the numbers are in line so the family is coming out of pocket as minimum as possible. Listen, care needs to be paid for. That's a thing. Care needs to be paid for, whether there's somebody coming into the home, the assisted living, or the skilled nursing facility. But how can we pay that with benefits that we qualify for, so that the family, we say it all the time, I don't make anybody any money. I'm not making anybody any money. I'm trying to protect loss from the financial perspective. So either way, we're providing peace of mind. It just depends on what, and sometimes we're doing both of those things for our families. Sometimes we're doing one, the other, whatever. So,
well, and I think also what's really important, in my professional opinion, in your area, in your line of work, is that you are licensed on both sides of the river. Yep. And state laws are not the same.
They're not. No.
So there's a big difference, correct?
Yeah. So in Kentucky, this is just one random one. So let's talk about retirement accounts, like individual retirement accounts. In Indiana, both are seen as an asset. So when I say both, if this is a recent change, just in the past year or so, if a spouse goes into care, previously the community spouse retirement account was protected. It was a protected asset. Now in the state of Indiana, they're both seen as assets. In the state of Kentucky, the retirement accounts, the principal is protected as long as you're taking your required minimum distribution as income. So very, very different. And there's just so easy to make mistakes. It's so easy to make mistakes, specifically in real estate, which you know because you've helped clean up some of those. But there's mistakes that can be made for families that try to navigate this sort of complicated stuff on their own. And I guess I would equate it to, if somebody was like, well, I'm not going to use a realtor. I'm just going to get my own contract. And I'm like, okay.
I've cleaned up a lot of those, Lindsey.
I know, right? And it's just like, or we could just do it the right way the first time, So, speaking of real estate mistakes, I have a family. This is a true story. This family, husband and wife, wife's in care, they don't have anything. I mean, when I say they don't have anything, they don't have anything. I think he had an $8,000 IRA in the home that he lives in. Well, 4 years ago, they sold the property to their daughter. But they sold it, not for $1, but they sold it for less than what it was worth. And now mom's in care, and, that's going to jeopardize her benefits. That has to be addressed. That has to be dealt with. And they're all like, oh my gosh. So luckily, no, nobody's going to have to give it back or buy. I mean, because they bought it, they just didn't buy it for enough, and so it is a complicated mess, and we're going to get it done. We're going to get it done because we always do. But mistakes are made so often when families just kind of go through it.
Well, and I will tell you, one of the easiest things and the mistakes I see is when I have a client that has a power of attorney or an attorney in fact, and it hadn't been recorded, or it doesn't give them the power to sell the real estate or any of the assets. And I'm like, I'm not an attorney. However, recording it's one issue,
right.
But boy, they don't want to give up that original. I'm like, it's got to be the original.
You have to do it. Yeah. And folks are nervous about that. And I think that's another, we were talking about pitfalls earlier. I have power of attorney. We have power of attorney for each other. And I'm like, oh, cool. How old are those? And it's like, they're 6 years old. Well, as long as you're alert and oriented, you can execute a new power of attorney. So I'm not an attorney. I'm not saying that, you would use it, but as long as you're alert and oriented, you can execute a power of attorney. And we encourage all of our clients to revisit those. Things change. One of the attorneys that we worked with was talking about how they had to update a POA, like a standard best practice, to include online banking. That's not something that was in the power of attorney, typically in the language 10 years ago, but it needs to be there now. So sitting down and looking at your documents, every year or two is just such a wise idea. And use a professional. Use a professional. And I tell people all the time when they're, interfacing with me, if it's not me, nope, nothing but love. But please don't go on this road alone, because it's just so dangerous. It's just so dangerous.
Well, and let's face it, it's going to cost them more money.
Of course,
in the
absolutely.
End. And I try to explain that to people. Yet, sometimes you just gotta love them and love them and leave them, as I say.
Bless her heart.
Yes. Yeah. And I tell you, so Lindsey, we've talked about asset protection. We talked a little bit about Medicaid. We talked a little bit about the real estate side. If there is somebody out there that wants to get a hold of you all and do a consultation, what is the best way for them to reach you all?
Yes. So our website is always a great one. You can also go to talktolarrynow.com or talk to Lindsey. That's EYLANDSEY.com. Talktolindseynow.com. And those are links with our calendar. So you can just pick a time and we'll set up a little virtual meeting. Otherwise, you can reach us at our office number. And that would definitely, we can get you in an appointment. So anytime. And our consultations are free.
Okay.
And it's a very quick appointment. People think I don't have 3 hours to go and say, no, I need 45 minutes, and I don't even really need to know the details of what you have. That's really personal, and I don't want you to give that information to me until you're comfortable and we're going to work together. But you'll know very quickly if we can help and how we can help, and you'll have all the answers. It'll be very clear in about a 45-minute meeting.
So that is Lindsey and Larry with Elder Advisors on protecting the golden years. And Lindsey, thank you so much for your time to be on the Monarch Podcast, and we look forward to doing business with you in the future. And if people want to get a hold of you, they can call. And I I always encourage people to take advantage of that 45-minute free session, because what's it going to hurt?
Yes.
I mean, this is, you work so hard. And I tell people that all the time, and the majority of the people in the real estate space know I'm about helping people build wealth.
Yeah.
And I want to put them in a better position.
Yeah.
And this is part of that, is protecting those assets, because you've worked so hard your whole life.
Yeah.
So again, thank you for your time, and thank you for being on our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for taking such great care of our folks.
Oh,
I know
gosh.
you've had a handful of ours, and we just know they're in good hands. So thank you so much.
Well, and I tell you, if you all want to listen to this, make sure you check out our website at monarchgroup.homes. And until next time, we'll be back.